Okay, item 2A is an agreement with Washington State University for educational programs, all as was discussed in work session on July 11th. This is the annual one-year extension for the WSU extension work. Total money in the budget is $39,447. The county supports plus office space and utilities, and that money is already in the budget.
I move to approve the agreement with WSU for educational programs.
Second?
Seconded. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Item 2B is an agreement with Mrs. Clean for janitorial services at the 3rd Street Professional Building. They were the low bidder is $36,000. The money is in the budget.
Move to approve the agreement with Mrs. Flynn.
Second.
Seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 2C is an agreement with Peninsula Area Public Access for 6 months, effective starting July 1st. Support to air public educational and government programming. Total cost of this agreement is $7,500, all as discussed in work session yesterday and several other times.
I move to approve the agreement with Peninsula Area Public Access.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments?
I don't have any questions, just one additional comment that I hope to work with the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee later on this year, once we better determine how much of PAPA's programming is going to be related to tourism promotion. I'm hoping that I can work with them to put a proposal together from the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee for additional funding to help support the tourism and visitor related work that PAPA intends to do.
Excellent.
And just to add on to that, Commissioner, as was discussed yesterday, our budget director is adding into this year's budget process a request for information from each of the department heads as to how much they might value and use this service for the next year to help give more information to that as well.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And since several of you are here today, we are trying to get a handle on how the county can best utilize this new resource. And so I would encourage all of you to think about, are there ways that your department would be able to effectively utilize public access television, which of course will go both on wave cable, but my understanding is also all the content will be available online for those who don't have wave. There are many communities who use public access for a variety of reasons. So the better you can help us understand what your department's needs might be with regard to public access, the better job we'll be able to do of prioritizing that funding. So thank you.
I like the idea of going to the department heads. You know, we kicked around just a bit yesterday the notion of not only tourism, but the emergency services. Last night I thought of another really important one, and that is, what are we doing in different departments of the county to deal with this carbon issue? So there may be some programming that we want to get out to people.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Bids and awards.
Item 3A is a bid award to Jordan Excavating Inc. for the Olympic Discovery Trail Forest Service Road 2918 to State Route 101 Trail Crossing Project. The low bid was $757,232.85.
I move to award the contract to Jordan Excavating Inc. of Port Angeles.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further comments or questions from the board? Just like to point out that the engineer's estimate was over $913,000 and a local contractor came in almost $150,000 less. The second lowest bidder was also a local contractor, and two out of local contractors were well above the engineer's estimate. So I just thought I'd point that out here, shout out local contractors, again, working hard on behalf of the county taxpayer, to provide services That's a tremendous savings, so thank you for both of them for putting in very good bids. Too bad we can't hold the contract. So it's moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Administration.
Item 4A is approval of minutes for the week of July 4th.
Move to approve minutes for the week of July 4th.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 4B is resolution appointing members to an ad hoc committee regarding public defense services, namely Heidi Greenwood, Steve Robbins, John Schober, Craig Ritchie, Janetta Rutland, Preston Kays, Carol Mortensen, and Chris Shea.
And Chris was the one that came in.
Yesterday, or last week, yes.
Move to approve the resolution appointing members to the ad hoc committee regarding public defense service.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any questions, comments? Thank you to these individuals for being willing to serve and to advise the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Community development.
Item 5A is an emergency ordinance to establish interim official controls under RCW 36.70A.390 and home rule charter for certain rural zoning districts to limit size of structures.
Anything to add there?
I just want to comment a little bit on the ordinances about the scale of this, the project, instead of the B and B, because it was very unclear whether this was a B and B or not. And the emergency ordinance needs to be very narrow and focused. So that's why we made it for the scale, because we don't have any scale on both the proportion ordinances or and because, still very, and the development pattern's already been set on East Wood Bay Road, because the people set that pattern themselves, and it's obvious what that pattern is. Back when these rules were made, there was no pattern, now they've set the pattern, and it's 3,000 square feet or less for all the buildings out there. That's why, that's all I'm gonna say.
And
That's
I'm
why.
not permitted to comment at this time.
Okay,
so.
that's fine. And 32,000 square feet is quite a bit different. Scale wise, quite a bit different. It's the ratio of this table versus this room.
Sir? Question? I've done some reading. It's been presented to us by legal staff, and I actually do tend to agree with what legal is presenting to us. What I was wondering about though is, what is the work that can be done so that the individual that says, I'm going to do this, who decides to change their mind? Right now, I understand there's no penalty for it, there's no enforcement mechanism. Is that something that we could work on in the next?
Well, I wish they would come to us and talk to us about this at the very beginning in 2015, and let us know what they're really trying to do. Because I asked the applicant, I said, what are you doing? And she said, I don't know if you're asking me that as a friend, as a government official, or as an elected official. I mean, does it matter who or why I'm asking this question? No. We just need to know what they're doing, and if we knew what they were doing, maybe we could have helped them figure out what property to buy instead in order to do this. I mean, I agree with you. I would love to see something like this happen, if that's what the community wants to happen. But you can't, when you start getting all these inconsistent, applications or papers, one says this and one says that, one has 2 structures on the plan, it's like, it's only gonna get worse from here if somebody can't clearly define what they're doing up front. So, is that your question?
Yeah, what I was wondering about, Marilyn, is I believe that this very minute, if that structure was completed, and they, right now, we have a limitation of 5 rooms, and all of a sudden start renting out 6 rooms, or 60 rooms. They violated the zoning for that area. But I believe right at this very minute that we have no recourse in terms of a penalty or a financial incentive to get them to apply. And that's what I was wondering is, should we be working in that
Yes.
direction?
There's a lot of problems that we need to do, so that's common. There's a lot of different things that we need to, that's definitely one.
Any questions for Mary Ellen?
I don't have any other questions, I guess I'll take this opportunity to comment. No, I share the concerns of many in the community, and, I think that this potential project, raises environmental concerns, it raises, neighborhood character concerns, it raises a lot of concerns. However, I find myself in the position of having to agree that the potential legal ramifications of enacting this emergency ordinance are significant and unfortunately something that we need to pay very close attention to. And philosophically, as much as I would like to support this ordinance, legally, I have come to the conclusion, certainly based in part on the advice from our prosecuting attorney's office, that that's going to be very, very difficult for us to defend. And I'm sorry to have to say that. So I am hopeful that we can work with this applicant, should they decide to move forward with the project, to address all of the, or at least as many of the environmental scale and traffic and other potential concerns as we're able to. But I'm afraid that I won't be able to support this emergency ordinance as much as I've been looking for a way to do it.
Well, it's unfortunate that legal and right are two different things.
Yes, that is often the case. And I've already heard from, this is in my district, I've already heard from several people who live in the neighborhood this morning. Their concerns have not been with the bed and breakfast aspect of the project. As you pointed out, their concerns have been with the size of the project and the scale of the project. And I suspected that was the case, but starting to hear it makes it even more difficult to not be able to support this. And again, I'm hopeful that we can find a way using the current codes and regulations that we do have to address these concerns. And I would just say for the public too, any of you who were paying attention to my campaign last year heard me talk a lot about the subject of planning and planning for the future and how important that is. And in my opinion, this is one example of what happens when we don't think ahead. Now, to be fair, I don't know that anyone would have thought ahead far enough to consider planning for a structure that's 3 times larger than any current residence in the county. So maybe we wouldn't have been able to effectively plan for this anyway. But to me, the fact that we sit where we do right now underscores the need for us to do a much better job across the organization of thinking about the future that we would like to see, and then putting in place the codes and ordinances necessary in order to best push us in that direction. And I hope over the course of the next few years that we're able to do that, so that we are finding ourselves in a reactionary posture, much less often than we are now. So, thank you.
I agree with your comments there, Mark, and I know it's gotta be frustrating early on. And it wasn't until I received some additional information, including comments about this would circumvent our process.
I understand, I mean, to me, the people that live out there, they're gonna have a hotel next door to them. To me, that's an emergency, it really is. I mean, I have to, I just, and, you know, I believe, I wish that legal could help. I wish there was another way. There's just not another thing that we could do. And, when people aren't honest with you, you can't make speculations of what they're gonna do. So I'm very sorry this is gonna happen for the people out at, Eastern Bay. Hopefully we'll get something on the books that it can't happen anymore.
Good, because in this particular case, the feedback I've received is that if they're gonna build that as a bed and breakfast, completely different requirements, as an example, for sprinklers.
Oh, yeah, they have to sprinkle it anyway.
And so kind of the issue is if there's a change in the use, did they build according to the future use?
They're building it to very high standards, to standards that would, hotels.
That's good.
Higher use.
Board's wishes, is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
No.
No motion to move this forward, so we'll just, guys, we'll have a motion or something.
Sorry.
Budget, no items, public works, no items.